Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Daily GSPM West Ham podcast. I'm joined by Jacob. Say hello, mate.
Hello, how you doing?
I'm doing well, mate. I'm also joined by a couple of guys from the Brighton GSPM podcast. Say hello, guys. Introduce yourselves.
God bless.
Yeah, I'm Blessings, GSPM Brighton. Happy to be here speaking to you boys.
Yeah, and I'm Joe from Daily Brighton. Yes, ready to probably get cooked on the weekend, to be fair. But other than that, we're all good, mate. We're all good.
Good. Okay, right. So I want to start this podcast with some questions from West Ham fans for Brighton fans. I think my first one is, your recruitment strategy is obviously brilliant. How does it feel watching the players that you sign and turn into these amazing players go on to other teams and do really well? Obviously, Caicedo signed him for Chelsea. He initially didn't set the world alight, but this season he's been amazing. How does that make you guys feel?
I'll let you go, Bless, if you want.
It's obviously tricky to see your best players leave pretty much every season. But the sort of money they're getting from it, I think the idea is, would hope that money is used very well and we can sort of start progressing and have more seasons in Europe like we've previously done. But yeah, like I said, it is difficult, especially Caicedo was a big hit, but that transfer fee was a lot of money. And that's been used quite well to sort of just make sure we're sustainable and we can actually continue to keep finishing at least top 10 each season. So I think, long term, if that money is used well and we keep just progressing, being a sort of homestay in the top 10 and then progressing to be in the outside European positions, then bittersweet, but I think I'll take that.
Yeah, I think my one question for that is, surely you get to a point where if you want to make that step up, you have to stop being the selling team. I know obviously that might be quite far in the future, but I guess what I would assume the projection is, you keep doing it until you can consistently get into Europe. And then if you want to stay there, you have to stop selling basically at some point. Yeah,
that's the idea. And I think once we, in the long term, in an ideal world, once we are sort of finishing in those European spots a bit more consistently, I think the players would want to stay. I think one big driving point for a player who wants to move is to play in Europe and all the promises these other clubs can give. That's definitely one thing that's a real big selling point for them. So if we can offer European football, I'm sure more players would want to come to play for Brighton, and our best players would be happy to stay as well.
Yeah, that's really fair. Jacob, you got any questions for the guys?
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying with the, how hard it can be to hold on to your best players. I know that's sort of Brighton's whole model really is, scouting these exciting young players from South America and then turn them into superstars, send them off and making a huge profit on it. We haven't really done anything to that sort of same extent. We haven't made a huge amount of money. The only one really in recent times would be Declan Rice, but he's homegrown anyway. So yeah, who do you think, you guys, who's your standout player so far this season? Who have you been impressed by the most? Maybe you weren't quite expecting it.
To be fair, I mean, I'd say not expecting it personally. I think I would say Baleba personally, but I feel like if you watch enough of him, you sort of see it there anyway. João Pedro, you can't really count because sort of he's a bit more, in terms of like his sort of pedigree, is a little bit more known. Van Hecker was good last season, but I'd say that Carlos Baleba is a player who is, like you said, like you were talking about just then, saying about how you'll end up selling on for a lot of money. I feel like Carlos Baleba is a player who, even though, to be fair, I still think we paid like 20-25 million for him. Like, it's not a small transfer fee, and I think it actually might have been similar with Caicedo. We've actually splashed like 20 mil on a in the Ecuadorian league or the Colombian league or whatever, and like that's still a lot of money, especially for that division. But there are certain players who like you can sort of see it might happen, but you're not sure yet. Like Yasin Ayari, he looks like quite promising, to be fair to him. Van Hecker is, I think he's 24, I want to say. Van Hecker's like 24. And, I mean, he had an awful game against Palace, but pretty much everyone did. But, like, I'm curious to see how much of a fee he would command if he was to sort of get into that sort of consistent form. But I think Baleba's a bit of where he's got, like, that game-changing thing in him, and also, like, that need for, like, athletic six who can sort of do a bit of everything, I think is quite popular at the moment. So I feel like he'll command a good fee, but he's also probably been the most consistent performer, I believe, apart from the red card against Bournemouth. But it's only one game, isn't it? So.
Yeah, I guess like it must be frustrating that if you sign a player and you know they start playing well, all the other clubs come just circling, don't they? So how well do you want them to do? And is there like a little part of you that goes, oh, just don't play well this one game, and it might put a little bit of doubt in other clubs' minds, and we'll keep them for an extra season?
Well, I think that's the sort of thing that's going on with Believer as well. I think the red card at Bournemouth, I think a few teams might look at that and be like, oh, it's a little bit rash. He gave away a penalty at home against Forest as well. So, like, when he was doing a couple of those things, I'm like, oh, maybe eyes are off for maybe another year. Like, he is still quite raw, and sometimes when you do see that, I think it might put some teams off, which is a good thing, yeah. Because I guess the money's not coming to me, so I don't want him to go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'll add to that, to be fair, because for someone like, when you see the way that the sort of way that Tony Bloom works is that, like, so for example, with our players, we ask for, normally a team would go in under what they would actually want to pay, right? And then obviously you build up to there. If you can get below it, then calm. But the thing is that with the contracts, if the player's like contracted to the club, the player would have to force his way out because we're going to ask for exponentially more than what we even value that player at. So, like, Caicedo, for example, I'm sure that, obviously I don't know, but like, I'm sure you could just see it in the inflated transfer fee. It was a crazy amount of money for a player who'd only really been good for a season. So, like, you're sort of looking at but then you look at Alexis McAllister, and Alexis McAllister was sort of come to the end of his contract. I think he had like a clause in his contract as well. But like, we're not going to sell to you if we don't want to sell the player, and if you are going to come in with a crazy amount of money, then you can have the player, but you're going to be paying over the odds for the value of the player anyway. So in that way, it's sort of like a win-win situation. So obviously you want your players to do well, but if they're going to be, like, for example, João Pedro, we're looking at like 100 million for João Pedro. Like that was said, I think it was reported a couple of days ago. Like it's a lot. You might not think he's worth that money, but that's the money that you have to pay to take him away because he's under contract. So
yeah, that's a pretty smart way of doing it, isn't it? It's like, not completely, like, the option is there, but they have to jump through certain hoops in order to get that, which I think is a really good way of having it, and having those safeguards in place so that you don't get ransacked every year, I think is a really good way of doing it. Okay, we're just going to go to the first advert, and then when we get back, the Brighton boys are going to ask us some questions.
This podcast is part of the Global Sports Podcast Network, the only network bringing you exclusive daily news and views on your Premier League team, the Premier League, women's football, and fantasy football. A unique listening experience that puts fans first. Bring you the very latest breaking news from your team. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and make us your first listen every day. Global Sports Podcast Network. Every club, every day.
Okay, I'll send it over to you boys. You got any questions for us?
My first one is actually going to be, to be fair, it's a little bit selfish of me to sort of ask just from a curiosity point of view. This goes to both of you as well. Is it a Lopetegui in vibe, or is it a Lopetegui out vibe? Is it what are we sort of thinking?
Go on, Jacob. I'll let you take that one.
The thing is, I have no ill feeling towards Lopetegui at all. I think he's got ideas and he's tried. You know, it just hasn't worked, basically. I think Tom will agree with me. Like the main thing we've lacked this season is just like an identity, like any sort of identity at all. And with David Moyes, that is something we had. You know, that you could turn on the West Ham game and you basically know what you're going to get from the game. We're going to sit back, have like 30% of the ball, and hit you on the counter. But with Lopetegui, we never know what we're going to get at all. Sometimes the players show up, sometimes they don't. They make bad decisions. You know, it's that inconsistency that has frustrated us so much, because there have been times where we've looked really good, and then there have been times where, you know, we literally look like a semi-pro team out there at times. Like, you know, can't string more than a couple of passes together, give the ball away, concede, and we're just like back to square one. And once again, he's under pressure. And it's not something that, you know, you can really keep up with for a long time. I think, me personally, I would, now that we're at this stage of the season, I wouldn't get rid of him. I would want to make that decision closer to the end of the season or at the end of the season, because, you know, otherwise we've kind of just wasted our time, really. You know, they've spent all this money, and there's got to be something to show for it. I think he deserves until the end of the season, and then we reevaluate. And you know, I'd be looking at somebody else to come in, I would hope, because, you know, where we're sitting right now just isn't good enough for our club.
Yeah,
what do you think, Tom?
It's a really weird one, because he's not been good, but he's not been bad enough to the point where everyone thinks he should go. It seems like this constant cycle of, oh, it's really bad, it's really bad. Oh, that was all right, actually. And, oh, we got a win here. And if you look at the point figures, it's not terrible. And, you know, we're not getting relegated or anything. It's just been a bit lackluster. So when it actually comes to making a choice about whether to keep him or to let him go, I don't think it's bad enough to be beneficial to get a new manager in at this point, to be honest, because how can you guarantee that a new manager is going to be any better? And I think he's only going to get better with time. You know, when you have the sort of squad overhaul that we had and a new manager bringing a new philosophy to the club, you know, it's those things are going to take time. It's just whether the board are going to be patient enough and are willing to potentially write off the season in hopes that next season will be better. And then the risk is, what if it's not better next season? Then we've wasted loads more time. So it's a tough one. I'm kind of fence sitting right now. I don't think that we should get rid of him. But if we do, it has to be before January. Because if you are bringing a new manager in, you have to give them the opportunity to go and sign someone. They have to be able to make a couple of additions. But, you know, if we sack him in February, the new manager then has to deal with, you know, the whole second half of the season with no additions, which is going to be so difficult. And that's only going to make the chance of that new manager's career tenure actually at the club, it's going to be worse. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe slightly fence sitting, but it's tough. It's a difficult one.
It does sound like a bit of a sticky one still, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
I heard Russell Martin and what's it, mate's name from Wolves? They're free currently, job centre.
Yeah.
Hit them up, mate, honestly.
I think I'm all right, mate. I'll probably have David Moyes back. He's still got his number saved somewhere.
It sounds very like you're not confused. That sounds patronising, but you sound like you're not sure. Like you don't know whether that's the way forward. Like, you don't really see like the way forward, which is quite deep actually. But like, and like, to be fair, obviously I don't envy you. Also, I'm not one to take the mick massively, but like, it is a bit of a sticky situation. Bless you. Have you got one?
Yeah, I think I'm glad you touched on playing style, because that answered one of the questions I did have. But my original idea was, so going into this season, what was the expectations? Obviously, you've got a new manager in with a high reputation. What was the expectations?
I think it was, we wanted more of the ball. You know, if we wanted to continue on the David Moyes route, he is someone that likes to play kind of defensive football on the counter-attack, which worked really well and it brought us so much success. So I think to downplay that way of playing football, I think is so naive, because it brought us our first trophy in absolute yonks, you know. So when you actually want to take that step up, you obviously have to change the manager, and you need to change the squad, and you need to kind of revamp the way that we approach the game. And Lopetegui's supposed philosophy was having the ball, controlling possession more, not rushing to score goals, but working and building play and having tricky players that can, intricately pass the ball. And it just hasn't really materialized. Like, we've seen it in glimpses. The Newcastle game is the one game where we actually showed that way of playing, and we were amazing. It was really good. But is one game actually playing that style good enough compared to, however many, like 10, 11 other games where we haven't?
And also, do you think he's been given the chance to bring in his players? I know one player came from La Liga. Is it Rodriguez?
Guido.
Rodriguez, yeah.
Yeah, and then obviously Wan-Bissaka as well, who I don't know, I don't watch West Ham that much, but I wouldn't put him down as a sort of ball playing, like a player who's going to be good enough to be playing up from the back kind of thing. So do you think that that's his signing as well?
Go on, Jacob, go for it.
I think there's definitely been a mixture in there.
I know he's alive.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, a bit laggy.
Yeah. So there's definitely been a mixture of, his signings and, Tim Stuyton, our director, who, has done great things for us so far. Not all of them have been great, like Rodriguez, like you mentioned before. He was a bit of a roll of the dice at his age. He is technically a World Cup winner, and it seemed on paper like a great signing, but he hasn't been amazing. I think he's kind of struggled to get up to the speed of the league at his age as well. It's not easy. It's not easy to do. But with the money we've spent, there's no way we should be in a worse position than we were last year, basically. And some of the signings are excellent players. Like Max Kilman has been one of our best players so far this season. And you kind of feel for him in a way, because he's obviously looking to sort of progress his career, moving up, what we would say is an upgrade from Wolves to be, kind of in a bad situation now where, he's obviously worked under Lopetegui in the past. He knows what he's like, but just the results aren't there. And it must feel kind of bad for him, probably being promised this, whole West Ham rebuild, and then having such a lackluster season so far. So I don't think the signings are the issue, because the quality we've got is there. Like, it's there to be seen. Some of the players, Paqueta, Bowen, Kudus, Souček has been one of our most important players this season, getting on the end of, corners and set pieces. We just need to find our identity, and, we shouldn't be in the position we are, basically.
Yeah,
I hear it. It's a Gulam sounding Gulam sounding thing. Where Souček is your one of your most important players.
Don't disrespect Thomas Souček. He is.
Oh my god! I only hinted at disrespecting him as well. I didn't even get it off in time.
I'll defend that man of my life. He is an absolute hero as well. And his celebration where he does a little spinny circle with his arms out, iconic. Add that to FIFA instantly. Amazing. Okay, we're going to go to our second advert now, and when we get back, we are going to do a combined 11.
Here at the Global Sports Podcast Network, we've spent a lot of time selecting our delivery platform. Zencastr came out the clear winner. With 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing that automatically removes all those ums and ahs, it's super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. If you're ready to tell your story, check out the link in the show description to learn more about Zencastr.
Okay, so combined 11. We're going to start from the goalkeeper, because we're not like insane starting from the striker. That'd be nuts.
No, it's
goalkeeper.
Silly.
Who would like to start? Who thinks that their player is a shoe-in? Definitely has to be in. No, qualms about it at all. Anyone?
To be fair, I haven't really watched much of West Ham this season. They're probably them and Fulham, I'd say, are the two that I haven't watched that much of. So I don't think Areola's that bad, to be honest. I think he's decent, but he also has a lot to do quite often.
Yeah.
But I think Verbruggen's been one of the best goalkeepers in the league. I'm not even just saying that either. Genuinely, I think he has been probably. We've said it on the pod before, haven't we, Bless? Goalkeeping has not really been a strong suit of the Premier League this season. I think if you're looking at some of the players who are like Chelsea are second, they've got one of the worst goalkeepers in the league. So, like, do you know what I mean? Like, I think I'd say probably Verbruggen, Raya, Onana maybe, and that's saying something as well. But yeah, I'd go Verbruggen personally.
Yeah, that's fair. It's tough when obviously Areola would be our starting centre back, but it's actually been Fabianski that's been playing a lot recently, and he played really well, especially in the last game. He played really well. I think it's a weird one. If you're saying on like just pure ability, you'd probably say Verbruggen over Fabianski. But if you're saying like the experience and the amount of clean sheets, and if you look at all the stats, like Fabianski has had an unbelievable Premier League career, so I think he definitely deserves to be in the conversation. But like, I wouldn't hate Verbruggen being in there because I think he is a really good keeper. Jacob, I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I think kind of like you said, there hasn't really been one standout keeper this season from any team. I don't think really. We've seen good performances. You know, Verbruggen's had good performances. Fabianski has as well. So I think it's just a toss-up, really. But just based on what I have watched from the last game, the man-of-the-match performance from Fabianski, you know, managing to rescue us a point, I would have to choose him, basically.
Yeah, that's fair. It's a good argument. I think that I'm guessing both of you guys both of the Brighton boys want a Brighton keeper. I'm assuming. I don't know if either of you are going to say for a West Ham keeper. That would be a bit nuts, to be honest. But
I'm not biased, to be fair. I'm actually not biased. Yeah, I've got some.
I think I'm the same one.
I've got some spots that are literally just for West Ham players.
Okay,
it's not Thomas.
Okay, we'll go with Verbruggen in goal. Let's go. We'll do all the back four together. Does anyone want to just say their back four, and then we can make our adjustments to it?
Who's your left back? Emerson.
Yeah.
And the centre backs are Kilman and
Todibo.
Todibo.
See, for me, I think Wan-Bissaka's definitely in at right back. He's been
I agree.
Very good this season. He's been really good. And when you were saying before about him not being that attackingly proficient, he actually has been really good this season going forward. It's really strange. Like we signed him as this like, you know, kind of mythical one-on-one defender. Everyone's like, you know, he's like the best one-on-one defender there is. But going forward, he's been really lively, and I think he seems to have been kind of unleashed at West Ham. So I really like him. I think he definitely gets the right back spot. I guess left back, I kind of understand Estupiñán, because Emerson is good and he's played a lot of football in a lot of different competitions. I think he's the only person to win all 3 UEFA competitions as well. So that's something of an achievement. But I kind of understand Estupiñán being in there as well because I think he's really good. It's then, for me, I think the contentious part is more the centre-backs, to be honest. I would actually say that both of the West Ham centre-backs get in there. I think Max Kilman has been amazing this season. I think
Jacob's not sure about that
one. and then I think Todibo, you know, he was wanted by like Juve and stuff like that, and we managed to get him, and they're starting to create quite a nice little centre-back partnership.
Yeah, I don't think Juve want him anymore, to be fair. I'd just say Van Hecker and then your choice of centre-back person.
What side does Van Hecker play on?
Well. On the right, yeah.
I'd take Van Hecker and Kilman.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
I'd probably
as I said, not biased. Yeah, I just had to laugh at the unleashing Wan-Bissaka. I never thought I'd hear that sentence ever in my life. That's a mad sentence.
But yeah, has anyone else got any disagreements with those picks?
Well, strangely, one position I would change is left back. I don't think Estupiñán's been that great for us.
Oh, did you say Estupiñán? I didn't even hear that. No, Estupiñán's been pony, mate.
I think I'd go for Emerson. Yeah,
I'd go for Emerson. Yeah,
I wasn't saying it because Emerson had been bad. I was saying it because I thought Estupiñán had been pretty decent. But if you disagree, then that's
he's missing a tendon in his knee or something.
Really?
Mate. He's not the same bloke anymore. No.
Okay, we can go for that then. We'll go for.
Bless you, rave. What's going on?
Tell me what's going on with these lights.
Man's in a dance, man.
Okay, right. Let's move on to the midfield. We'll play a 4-3-3 just because it's simple. We won't get into all this like 4-3-7-2-6 stuff. 4-3-3, 3 midfielders. Who wants to? Are there any shoe-ins?
Baleba has to go in there, mate.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's fair.
Yeah.
Paqueta.
Right? Can we put Kudus in the midfield just for vibes? I love Kudus, man. I think Kudus
unbelievably attacking. Well, if you love him, why don't we put him left wing? Seems pretty simple to me.
Matoma, we want to get all vibes, surely. I'm thinking more about if we put this team out, how much vibes is it going to be?
That's fair. Who are you putting Kudus in for in the midfield? Is there really anyone else you'd say? Kind of more attacking.
To be fair, the thing is that we play 4-2-3-1, so we only have really 2 midfield. We have more than 2 like central midfielders that we could offer you, but João Pedro would play in the 10 normally. Yeah. So then obviously that takes away from like I wouldn't put. You don't have a striker. Like I hope Antonio ends up being calm, all that stuff. But Falkirk, where's he? I don't know where
he's been injured as well, so he's only played I think 2 hours of football in total, so not a lot.
But then this is a Danny Welbeck podcast, so I don't really know what we should do. I'd say Baleba definitely. Matt O'Reilly's barely played. Whiffer's awful so far, and then the only other player is Ayari. So you might actually be able to get Souček in there.
Yeah, I think what my argument would be was, would you say Baleba's more attacking than Paqueta? I wouldn't. I'd say Paqueta's more attacking.
Yeah, Paqueta's more attacking.
Yeah, because I play Souček and Baleba as the 2 midfield. That's quite a duo midfield, to be fair. And then Paqueta a bit further forward, and then Kudus on the left, Bowen on the right, and João Pedro up front. That sounds like the best.
Oh, do you know what? Can we swap João Pedro for Danny Welbeck, please?
Yeah.
Because the only reason is João Pedro as a focal point number 9 is actually not as good as. He's not being utilised properly there, whereas Danny Welbeck's he's the guy. He's just the guy. You know what I mean? Yeah. Danny Welbeck is our version for you than Souček is for. You know what I mean?
That's fair. Underrated. Yeah. Okay, well, are there any disagreements with that?
To be fair, the only player I'd say that we would definitely... We've had in almost every single one is Matoma, but I like Kudus a lot. But he was punching up some dons, wasn't he? I don't know what's going on there. I swear he's just come back from like a really long suspension.
It wasn't that, just 5 games. That's not that long.
Just 5. But yeah, no, I think that's pretty decent, to be fair. I can't believe Souček's in it, honestly.
Souček is class.
Is he though?
He's so good.
Jacob, do you think Souček's good?
No. Think like actual technical ability wise, I don't think he is the best player in the world. However, the impact he has, I think, gets very sort of lost. Just generally how many times he's popped up for us. And yeah, if you watch a whole West Ham game, you'll probably see what he brings for us. Like he wins almost every header. Like
he's one of the best people in the air in the league.
I'd say he wins 8 out of 10 headers probably against most Premier League centre backs.
Are we talking about going forward or defensively or both?
Both. Yeah. He's all over the gap. Honestly, he's everywhere. I'm not trying to pretend that he's the best player, the best centre mid in the league, but the impact he has, I'd say it's a similar sort of situation to like McTominay at Napoli sort of vibe, like just everywhere, and scores goals, makes big tackles, and just reliable, really. Yeah. So yeah, I could see why it's amusing to non-West Ham fans, but we have a lot of respect for him.
I hear it. I do hear it. You got to respect it. Everyone has their sort of like. Would you say he's a cult hero? He's been there for a while, isn't he?
Yeah,
I think we could say that about him, definitely.
See, the amount of money we bought him for, I think him and Kufal we signed for like 15 million combined. And they've both gone on to play over 100 games for us each in the Premier League. So, it's amazing.
Kufal coming to the end now, though, surely, right?
Yeah.
It's a twilight for Kufal, I reckon. He was sick at one point. He was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think he's nearly there.
Well, if anyone's got any objections to any of that, they have to speak now. Otherwise, that's getting locked in, and that's going to be our starting 11.
Bless, what do you say? You've been lagging for time, mate.
No, I'm pretty happy with that. I have been sort of trying to tune in and figuring out where everyone is, but I'm pretty I'm pretty happy with that. And I like Souček as well. I think his skill sets are really underrated, to be fair. So yeah, no,
that's got to be cap, mate. That's got to be cap, mate. I've known you since we've been in school, mate. You've never once said anything about Souček in your life, mate. Never once when we've been down the pub have you gone, do I really rate Tom Souček? Never said that before.
I have said in the past.
He's just put on a compilation like while he was lagging.
Yeah, I was watching highlights whilst I was lagging.
Yeah.
Those Souček compilations have hundreds of views, mate. Hundreds. At least 12 views, mate, on a Souček compilation.
And they're all you as well.
Yeah.
I got repeat. Oh, that's good.
But yeah, I think we're locked in.
I think that's locked in. Do you want to go for it? So, for Bruggen in goal, Wan-Bissaka as the right back, Van Hecke and Kilman as centre-backs, Emerson as left-back, midfield three of Baliba, Souček and Paqueta, Bowen on the right, Kudus on the left, Danny Welbeck up front.
Absolutely.
That's a team and a half,
Good
team.
Absolutely, man.
That's a great team.
Good throwback vibes in there.
Yeah, there is a throwback vibes in there.
Before I forget, I've actually got one more question.
Yeah, go for it.
And it's any updates on Mikel Antonio?
Jacob, do you want to go for it or do you want me
to? Not since the initial sort of, obviously as and when it happened, we saw, everything. And then there was the official statement, saying that he's undergone surgery, basically. But since then, nothing at all. I'm a little bit surprised we haven't seen anything from his side. Maybe it's not a surprise, really. It's
trying to work it out, probably, isn't it?
It's a shocking, scenario for anyone to be in, let alone somebody that's that much in the sort of public eye. Everyone's seen what his car looked like, and it's horrible. We were really shocked when we found out, because he's such a nice guy as well. From what we've seen, obviously,
he's so funny. He's so
exactly.
Funny.
It couldn't really happen to a nicer player. There's not really been any updates, but he's a strong guy, and considering how it looked, I think he's come off quite well.
Yeah, he's probably
in
lucky.
the grand scheme of things. So we're pretty grateful. I'm sure we don't want to speculate too much on it, but we're happy. Just knowing he's stable and he's had the surgery he needs, really.
I hope he still comes back, at least.
Yeah. I mean, it's a tough one, isn't it? Like, it puts everything into perspective. Like, someone that you idolise, and we all talk about players on the podcast that we do, and when something actually happens to them outside of football, you go, oh, I really appreciate what this person does for my club. Like, Mikel Antonio is like our top scorer in the Premier League. He's done amazing things for West Ham, and obviously people say the comments about his ability as a footballer, but he has been such a good servant for West Ham. And then on top of that, he's just a really nice bloke. He comes across really well, and you never hear anyone talking bad about him. And he's someone that just seems to make everything that he does seem enjoyable, and he seems to lift the people up around him. Like, whenever he's doing the media stuff and when he plays and, his celebrations being nuts, he has this like enjoyment for football, and I think generally for life, which is such a positive thing for the club. So when something bad does happen to someone like that, it's heartbreaking. So we just send all our love to him and his family, and hope that he gets back as quickly as possible.
Yeah. COVID, Mikel Antonio was actually like Haaland, mate. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
That was
yeah.
unbelievable. He also played for the same like Sunday League team that I did when I was younger as well.
Really? Oh wow.
Yeah, he played.
Yeah.
Is it Tooting and Mitcham or Streatham
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Tooting? He played for ages
Yeah.
ago. Yeah, I used to play for them as well when I was younger.
Oh, that's huge.
Well,
What a guy, mate! What a guy. Nah, praise up to Antonio though, 100%.
Yeah, I wish him a speedy recovery.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. definitely. All right. I think that's a good time to wrap it up. So thank you all for watching this episode of the daily GSPN West Ham podcast. Say goodbye, everybody.
Bye,
So
guys.
there, guys.
Thanks
Thanks
for
for
listening,
listening.
Sweet. So please feel free to rate this podcast 5 stars. Check out all the other GSPN podcasts. There's all sorts. You've got the fantasy football pod, women's football, wrap-up pods in multiple different languages. And yeah, you've got, the Brighton guys daily podcast and all the other Prem teams as well. So thank you all for listening, and we'll speak to you soon.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.